up a seat at the bar to join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tanzan, Maggie, and me bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.
Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 13.10, Snicker-Snack, where we are covering the novel Deadbeat. My name is Tanzan, and I am joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
What's up?
Thank you to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us to do what we do. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at www.patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 11. Harry goes home to Thomas and Butters. Thomas seems unsettled but won't open up. Harry starts to read the Erlking but falls asleep and enters a dreamscape where his father Malcolm speaks with him.
It sounds very domestic. Harry goes home to Thomas and Butters.
He's got family now.
Right. But first he's going to clip the mailbox with the borrowed SUV.
You know what?
The beginning of the SUV abuse.
This cracks me up. I was thinking, it's just sort of always been a thing, but again, right, thinking on it again here, and I was like, you know what, is ironic? Because Harry is a ginormous person, and Harry has a ginormous dog, and Harry has even a ginormous cat, and yes, he drives around in his little but as soon as you put him in a ginormous vehicle, he can't fucking drive. He's like, I don't know where the ends and the beginnings, and because we see this isn't the one and only time. There's another time where Harry will not be in the Beetle, and I don't think he had as much problem with the Trans Am, because again, that was a smaller, but I just find this funny, right? I'm like,
Attempted murder of his mailbox?
It's not like Murphy, who's like 5'0". Like literally, my mom was like 5'0", and I can remember like in our big old station wagon back when I was a wee little thing, so like a 70s era station wagon, and it had like my mom literally had a couple of like seat cushions, like you'd put on the kitchen chair or whatever, that she would use when she was driving. Because again, it was like a bench seat. So it only had so much maneuverability and whatever, right? The whole thing was only going so far. So of course, my dad, being like just under 6 foot, would need it right. And my mom would have to scooch it up, but there's only so far, right? So she literally had a couple of cushions, so she was up higher as well to see out, right? And I'm like, so it's not like even Murphy I could see and of course modern, yes, they all have much more adjustability and stuff like that, right? But it's not even like, where she'd be like trying to peer, old lady peering over the steering wheel and couldn't. I'm like, you're ginormous too. You fit this vehicle without, you know what I mean? Like, exactly. I'm like, what? I always find that funny when I think about it. I was like, wait a minute, everything in his life is like supersized except like this.
He just subconsciously loathes everything else that's not his Beetle.
Well, I mean, and maybe that's part of
or
it
not
too.
so subconsciously.
It's
Or he clips the mailbox every time he's driving in a Beetle, but he can't tell with the Beetle. There's no bumper or fender on the Beetle with which to clip things.
That's why the mailbox goes down in one tap. It's actually been clipped like 117 times, and this is just the final one to like...
His mailbox is like a weeble and a wobble, but it won't fall down. Like it always just springs back up again when the pressure's off.
Oh, poor Harry, it's so funny.
And you're lucky your landlord just deals with that.
Well, he puts it back in, so, We haven't encountered his landlady too much yet, good old Mrs. Spunkle Creef, but yeah.
Still though, the classic old lady who's just staring out the window with her binoculars, he's like, every fucking time he does that.
Maybe that's why he has the advantage of being on this, like, basement in the back that maybe she doesn't have, like, direct view to his suite, so she can see him coming up the street every time, but then as soon as he turns around the corner to go in the back lot, then she, like... She just listens. She hears the little tink every time. Oh, Harry's home. That's because I think it's the only reason he gets away with it, because exactly right. He, like, you know, just fixes it back in. Like, there's one where he talks about, you know, he's like, goes out and shovels the walk for her first, you know, just so he can, you know, keep, you know, he's like, yeah, I get my door ripped down. I have, like, zombie invasions. I have, like, toad demons. But, you know, at least I shovel the walks for her, so she thinks I'm a great tenant, you know?
Yeah, he pays his rent. Yeah.
Pays his rent usually.
But these days, he's much better. These days, he's more on time.
But I will say in this moment right now, he does not fix the mailbox. He says, I bent the pole in half, but it was still standing. Good enough for me.
Yeah, well.
That's what I'm saying, though. I was like,
True.
not good enough for your landlady.
It just drunkenly. He didn't say he didn't say in half. So he knocked it out, and then when he shoves it back in, then it was still a little bent and kind of drunken. So, you know, I mean, like, in half, I think, might have been a bigger deal. Now it's just, you know, a little crooked, but Mrs. Spunklecreef is probably a little crooked, too. So, you know, she might not notice. It's just off tilt with her. She's fine.
What about the mail post system? Isn't that, like, a really big deal in, like, the States? We won't deliver mail if you've fucked up your mailbox. I feel like that's a thing.
Okay, that's not a thing. I was going to say maybe like damage to mailboxes, and I was going to go along with I'm sure actual state, you know, the outgoing post things but your own is probably not a big deal, but I'm really not sure that they don't deliver if your mailbox is not pristine.
I'm pretty sure what I've learned from the internet is that the U.S. postal system works better than, like, CIA operatives. They're really peculiar
That's
about
just what
things.
they would have you believe. You know, no, so you've been watching too many Cheers episodes and listening to Cliff. But I have seen movies, modern day.
We're talking about science fiction books right now, not movies, which have no basis in real life.
I'm sorry, we're talking about fantasy novels, not science fiction, okay? Fuck, get it right. Where it's modern day LA or someplace, but it looks like it could be like a post-apocalyptic, and I'm pretty sure those people still get mail.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Because they're like CIA operatives.
But that's what I mean, is the mailboxes in these neighborhoods are not pristine. And I don't
What a thing we get stuck on.
That's just
the mailbox.
Welcome to Free Flow Rambling.
We answer all the questions you didn't know you had.
Right? Exactly. We didn't even know we had them before we started.
So Harry enters his apartment to find a very chilled out mister on Thomas's lap, and Thomas lets him know that Butters has crashed out on Harry's bed because he was
And
quite
thank
tired.
God, at first I was like, oh, poor Butters. Then I was like, no, wait. Harry's cleaning service came by. It's okay, Butters, you can crash on that bed now. And then I'm thinking, wow, no wonder Harry's even more pissed about all the times Thomas doesn't leave, because exactly.
Why is this so itchy?
He's like, oh, get out of my bed. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, apparently it's fine. Butters was all like, which I can't imagine. And then apparently just like crash. You know?
Adrenaline, nothing.
Yeah. So good news is obviously Butters didn't just like, Thomas didn't just like slash his throat when he came in. So yes, he got the note. Woohoo, good. Good thing Thomas isn't like super reactive right now, or that could have been, right?
Well, literally, like, no, read the. I'd be dead by then.
Yeah, right? Like, exactly. You know, so at least Thomas is like, all right, Harry's got all these wards up, right? If I got my little magic do-hickamajigger to get in, then hopefully Harry installed this guy.
I would think he would probably be more surprised than anything and be like, dude, it takes a lot to get in here. How are you here?
Well, yeah, exactly, right? That it doesn't just go completely on the offensive first, you know, kill now, ask questions later. So, yes, obviously that all went down just fine. And it's kind of...
If it was Murphy, then he'd at least have a black eye.
Right, yeah. But again, not being supernatural, yeah, at least Murphy probably would have just, you know, beat him up and subdued him, wouldn't? I mean, even Thomas not trying, one punch could potentially kill someone, you know? Ooh, shit, sorry, I just meant to tap him.
Yeah. The note being left on the mantle is a little far from the door.
Right.
Pin it to the door would have been my go-to plan, but...
Pin it to Mouse.
Yeah.
You're not getting through the dog until you...
Mouse, hold this note until Thomas shows up. That seems like it would have been a safer plan for Butters, but...
Right.
Clearly everyone lived.
Again,
And
maybe...
I do like the written down proof that both Mouse and Mister are fine living with a vampire. They've met Thomas, they know Thomas, they'll cuddle up to him. He's doling out the scratches, no problem. It's not like one of those things where it's like, Mr. refuses to ever come home when Thomas is here. So Mr.'s basically been an alley cat again for the last year because Thomas doesn't leave. And like,
Right, exactly, yeah.
no, cohesiveness, we're all getting along. Even the supernatural animals and sensing the supernatural monsters is fine if Harry says so.
Yeah, exactly right. It's that seal of approval or whatever, because we've seen Mr. react before, right? Sometimes he's been the tip-off to Harry that something's about to come a knocking at the door, right? Or this or that, right? So it's nice to know that, yeah, he can sense, he has that whole cat things and things we can't see, but Mr.'s like, all right. Yeah, fine. If Harry says this guy's cool, he's here, fine. Yeah, I'll sit in his lap, I'll get pet. And again, I'm sure different since Thomas is the most human-like, right? Like Mauver or something, I'm like, ew, cold, dead corpse, cat, right? Cats are like, no, give me a warm lap.
And I wonder if he has just a little bit of White Court influence over the cat. The cat's just like, I like you and I don't know why.
It's just using that teeny tiny little come hither with Mr. just so he doesn't get his eyes clawed out every time. Maybe. I'm not
wish
quite
I had that when I was a kid. I want to love you. Why are you running?
Instead, she just went on pure psychological torture.
Oh dear.
The cats did eventually love me, so it's fine.
Yeah. You took the scratches until you had subdued and broken them, and she just gave up and forever. It was like Stockholm Syndrome, and the cat just stuck to Jessica. It's like,
You will sleep in my bed every night, scratching and clawing or not.
I've seen Rory trying to get away from you. It's just like this infinite loop. Like, I could see her being like, fuck it.
but I don't. Hopefully, I still have it. It was kicking around for the longest time, and now again, I'm not sure where it might have ended up. But I had a picture of her at about 2 years old, which is when we got the kitten. And she was in nothing but like her underpants at the time, and you can see she's got all the right. She's doing the hug the cat thing, where the cat's like, got the top half hugged in her arms, and the rest of it's kind of just dangling there or whatever. And yeah, you can see there's little red lines all over Jessica,
Top to bottom.
Early training.
This was. She's like, you will love me.
Me and that cat were besties.
I will love you and pet you, and I will call you George. Only she didn't call him George, but about all the rest of it. Elmira from the baby Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons. Wasn't she the crazy animal sadist?
I don't know what Tiny Toons.
No.
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I feel like that was. Anyways. Regardless, moving on. Yes.
So basically, Harry wants to sit down and start reading this Erlking, which is a smart idea. Don't put this off. Clearly, people want this from you.
Right.
One more day.
You can't even hang on to your car, let alone right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do like that. It would have been, had he just gone home and gone to bed or set this book on his counter or something, I would have freaked the fuck out. But the fact that Harry's like, okay, I gotta read this before someone else tries to take it. Thank you, Harry.
Yes, right. One of those. Who cares about the plot? Just fucking read it.
Yeah. I know I have to know what's in this book, but I have so many other things I need to do. No.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I feel this is cool because, again, this other series that I was reading, and the guy's like Danish and Russian and whatever. And I feel like I actually had like there was another reference sort of to this, which I thought was very like crazy, apropos timing, that they were something about, was it artwork? I don't remember what they were talking about, but it was basically the Erlking kind of a thing. Some sort of like hunter warrior thing. The guy was like, hey, that relates nicely to the book we're just doing. But yeah, it was funny because, again, it was like some German thing. I was like, hey. But yeah, and then Thomas kind of gives him a look. And he's like, oh, shit, man, sorry, you want to sleep?
Well, Thomas is in a bit of a mood, which is fair considering the way that they just last left each other.
I got fired again. Fuck you. I couldn't afford to buy dog food and beer.
Yeah, he's a little bit of pensive, mopey. Something's up with Thomas, but Harry basically is like, he gets like this, it's fine.
Right. Probably a little bit like, I don't know, if you had like an argument, like really big argument with like your boss or something. And I mean, you feel right, you feel justified, but you also feel maybe like a little embarrassed about how it went down.
You feel a lot embarrassed about how it went down, actually. Hypothetically speaking.
But Thomas isn't fired, so it's fine. He was able to come home. He's just, probably not quite sure how to read the situation yet. That's good. It's all hypotheticals, people. Yeah. But I do find this kind of funny that, because he's all like raises his eyebrows at Harry, like, right? Which I get Harry's response, like, oh shit, do you need the couch to like go to sleep? This is your bedroom. And he's like, not especially. And then it's just, I'm like, then why'd you raise your eyebrow at him for? Then what do you care if he, like, you know what I mean? Was it just the principle? Were you just pointing out that he's in your space? Like,
It's just like, I didn't know you could read, Harry.
Even something like that, you know what I mean? Or even just no, but I figured you'd wanna, or you'd tell me about Butters, or you know what I mean? Just the fact that he doesn't continue with anything. I'm like, okay, fine. If that wasn't it, though, you still seem to give some kind of facial indication that you wanted something to be said or to say. And he's just like, no. And then Harry's like, all right, I'm gonna read my book. And then I guess he does kind of go like, what's wrong? But Thomas is like, I don't want to talk about it. So it's like, well, then why'd you make a face? If if
you're making a face. Yeah. So it already wouldn't be a good dream if that's the content you were reading while you nodded off.
Except I wonder, because didn't he say...
Don't really get that far in it, does
Well,
he?
we don't know how far he gets in it, but I'm like, isn't the book in, like, German? Hence the Erlking. So I'm like, how much is he really reading anyway?
Yeah. It's just one of those, like, spell ritual things where it's like, well, you don't need to know the meaning. Just say it.
Yeah, but right? Like, is he just waiting for something to, right? Because I'm like...
written like Shakespeare style where they've got the left-hand side that's got the actual... This is what this actually means.
See? This is where you get your, like, theater arts musical major and your, raised Catholic, because I'm thinking about the missals when we attended Latin Mass, and it had the Latin on one side and the English on the other. But yes, exactly the same as the Shakespeare, where the left and right hand pages. Yeah, exactly the same, only different.
Let's go with that, because he clearly doesn't go and pick up a German translation guide anywhere. And he's proven he's not good with languages.
Or this just proves it doesn't, because he's like 5 seconds in and he just falls asleep because he can't understand what the fuck he's reading anyway.
Crap.
Ich Einstein Berliner, and he's like, fuck, I'm out. It's like...
See, it'd be better if it was Dutch, right? That's just misspelled English. But
What's Dutch?
It'd be better if it was Dutch, because it's just misspelled.
That's just misspelled English.
German, though, you're not predicting much of what it's trying to say. Although I imagine throughout the Erlking it says a whole lot of Schadenfreude over and over and over again.
Only not like that, because that would just be like your righteous birthright or something, because it's not going to look at Schadenfreude like Schadenfreude. It's just going to be like, no, this is how it should be.
Death, death, death.
Now you know, like, the extent of my German. Schadenfreude, like, Ich Einstein Berliner, and, like, Gesundheit. That's like...
Bitte.
Bavarian. Oh, yes, danke, bitte. Yeah. That about sums it up. Oh,
Ich liebe dich.
and O Tannenbaum.
Scheiß.
Scheisen, yeah. Okay, I guess I know a little bit more than I thought I
It's
did.
a Gründe.
I don't know how to ask for the bathroom, though. That's probably one I should, right?
Harry falls asleep while reading and dreams of a campfire amidst a mossy tree-enclosed glade. At the fire is his father, Malcolm Dresden. And Malcolm pours the pair some coffee, and Harry remarks that this is a better dream than in his normal kind. The night is young.
It's a big novel for fathers.
Yeah.
Just we're talking about Murphy's dad in the last chapter. And now, hello, Mr. Dresden, you're here too.
I mean, I guess Thomas is kind of on the fringe because of his father. He's living in Harry's basement.
A little bit that way too, yeah.
Right, more of his dad. But yes. Yeah, it's interesting because he's like, it's nowhere he recognizes, but he's got like this sense of familiarity. So that's kind of interesting. Again, is that just that dream world stuff, or where is the, again, with Harry, you never know. What's the what? Is there something real significant about this?
Yeah, either A, it's built from your dreams, so it's just yours and it feels familiar, the way that you basically in any dream feel,
Yeah.
beholden
I was
to anything.
just wandering through my, castle of Windsor like I always do.
Yeah, it makes sense in a dream. You've
Yeah,
got a lot of
totally.
audacity in your dreams. And
Yeah, especially the
Or-
ones where you show up naked to work.
There's so much less screaming in this dream. I'm so confused.
Or maybe it's just one of those from, his dad died when he was 6. That's more or less when you start getting memories. Maybe there was something, they went camping or had a spot, or
Exactly.
who knows, from
right.
quite a young age
Just
that
some subconscious
Yeah.
I don't directly recognize, but it feels familiar. Exactly, right? Who knows? But yeah, they've got coffee and stew. So Dad loads them up with coffee. And then they both loaded up with crap. And then, yeah, right? He's like, so much better than my usual. And Dad's like, how so? Like, less tentacles, less screaming. And then, yeah. Then we get a little noise and shuffle out from the woods. And it's not just like somewhere, it's like the tops of these trees swaying and disturbing.
wailing alien cry just makes me think wailing baby cry.
whaling, you just go straight to babies?
Yeah, I mean, some random Cthulhu monster out in the woods, or just some, like, I'm kind of thinking of when Harry goes to King Cross Station in his mind after Dumbledore is dead. Major spoilers in the rest of what I'm about to say. Yes, Harry Potter. That should have been obvious.
It was once you got to King's Cross and Dumbledore.
And you've got, like, the little Voldemort baby disgusting amalgamation there, and it's sort of just like, yeah, this is a little bit of, like, what's left over and what it was and will be, and all this sort of gross, like, if we're in Harry's subconscious and there's some random wailing baby in the background, that to me is like, well, that's potential Harry, cut off Harry, hacked off Harry, not like a monster, but just some...
I think you're just allowing this Harry to be colored by your views, interpretations, and immersion into the other Harry.
It's possible, but I don't like, wailing baby cries in the middle of the woods.
Yes, well,
yeah,
yes.
Don't go check that out.
Well, while that is very frequently a word used to describe the babies and what they do is, yeah, it's not the entirety of it for me. So, yeah, I mean, ghosts and banshees wail too. Those are also wailing type. And then there's the whales, and they have a whole other kind of wailing. Exactly. So if you think more like that... we have now lost 10% of our whale listeners, though. They're offended by what she just said.
How dare you?
And I'll say it again.
I will not do that with my blowhole.
His father does say to him, beware the Jabberwock.
The jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jube bird and shun, the frumious bandersnatch.
So anyways,
he took his
basically the whole point
I
is
would
like,
give you the
either
opportunity to do the whole thing, but...
No, tough over her.
Aw.
He's bragging right now, and she's done it before. It's not impressive.
Still a good poem.
Good job. You memorized something in the 3rd grade and you haven't forgotten yet.
Now I have to start from the beginning.
No.
With Brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogoves and the mome rats outgrave. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that snatch. Beware the juju bird and shun.
Not snatch.
Oh, catch, my bad. See, I don't have it all.
Dummy.
Beware the juju bird and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree and stood a while and thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came woofling through the told you wood and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with his head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, O beamish boy, O frabjous day, calloo, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas Brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borgroves and the mome rats outgrave. Jessica.
Fucking hate Alice in Wonderland.
That's Through the Looking Glass, and that's the best part of it.
I fucking hate Alice in Wonderland and any other iteration that she has existed in.
You're basing that all off Disney.
Just don't like it. Maybe Disney should have done a better job.
I still think an Alice in Wonderland costumed theme party would be a lot of fun.
You could do a whole... My brother, actually Uncle David, like early university, got invited to something like that. And I remember my older sister coming home. And so he's there in like this like gray tails top hat. I think he borrowed my dad's like fancy walking cane thing that he had. And my sister comes in and is like, because my oldest brother was like, didn't do parties and friends and things. And right. So it was like, what the, yeah. And my dad, with his very dry, British sense of humor, was like, went out and got married today and didn't tell any of us. And my sister's like, oh my God, serious? I'm like, totally. Because at the same time, it was the kind of thing you could see that brother potentially doing. You're like, it probably made more sense in some ways than, no, he got invited to a fancy dress party. And, when is the Mad Hatter, right? But yeah, it would be a good time. A lot of good costumes. Like, everyone could pick a part in that, right?
Right? You could do variations on it. Like, the rabbit could be in, like, a tracksuit instead. I don't know. Something weird.
Indubitably.
So I do love that his father has quite the sense of humor. And the references are great.
Where did Harry get it from?
Fresh out of my vorpal swords, my father said. He reached into the pack and tossed me a miniature candy bar, the closest I can get to a Snicker-Snack.
But
and now you know why
this is part of the nature nurture thing about, did he get it from his dad? The kind of humor that Harry has isn't the kind that you would normally be showcasing in front of a 6 and younger child, right?
And yet, may I present Exhibit A. those that are raised in a house of sarcasm come by it quite naturally and develop it early on. That is one thing. Love my little grannies to bits. She's adorable. She doesn't seem to have gotten there yet. And I blame this on her upbringing. That even though she's 5, I'm like, she does not yet have a well-developed sense of humor. It doesn't seem like, I'm like, I feel like you should be understanding sarcasm better than this. Obviously, the people you are around with all the time do not employ it enough. Because she gets huffy about things. And I'm like, no.
I don't know. I can't remember when I started picking up sarcasm, but I feel like that age is still quite young for it.
Yeah, I think it's really all about, I mean, it's not necessarily well-developed at that age. But this is the point, is you would know when I would say bullshit stuff, you would know it was joking or teasing or being like, ugh, Mom, whatever, right? Where she gets pissed off. So it's that, right? Not necessarily.
Some of us are just smarter.
Well, but that's the thing. But you were raised with it much, right? Obviously, it was how I approached things and talked about things consistently, as well as much of my family who you were around semi-regularly, not all the time. But, you know, things like that, right? Whereas obviously her family does not employ it in the same way as often because it's right, that concept doesn't carry through to her the same way. So I have a feeling that I mean, again, nature versus nurture, who knows how much of that, but I'm going to say some, like, again, right, like this campsite
right,
that's familiar, not somewhere buried in that subconscious, right? You might be sort of used to that. Somewhere you heard, and again,
I get that, but you're part of the, difference you're making is that the more exposure you have to more people and the more developed you're gonna be because you're dealing with all these different words. Harry basically just had his dad.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Just the
Up until 6, though, like you say, which is when you get a lot of this core, right? That's what I mean, is that seed was planted. Yes, he didn't have 20 years of sarcasm from his dad, but maybe he had a really good, solid foundation in that first 6 years of that type of sense of humor. That perhaps that is where some of it, right? It developed later from other things, but maybe that's part of why Harry likes that sort of reminds him of dad.
Come back to the Jabberwocky, if that's...
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fine with coming back to the Jabberwocky.
So
It was brilliant.
I mean, if we're going to look at like the actual, the reason why would he include the Jabberwocky, we kind of have to like look a little bit at the poem. Looking at it, it's kind of a very traditional heroic narrative in which an unassuming hero sets out to defeat an improbably dangerous enemy. But due to the absurdity and the mock serious tone, it would be reasonable to interpret... What?
I thought that you also just knew the poem really well when you corrected her. I just scrolled down and saw that you just have it here.
Oh, I just got busted. I just found out you were cheating. What?
But that's okay because I also downloaded the Benedict Cumberbatch version of it just in case it wasn't done well.
Oh, so we can cut Mom out and not even give her the credit for it.
Have a comparative sampling. I would like to hear Benedict.
You can go back and forth between verses.
There you go.
Yeah, you want to edit that one,
Can
sure.
you tell the difference? I can't tell the difference. The difference is what costs less.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, one way to interpret this poem is that like it's because it's so absurd and kind of like mocks serious tone that it evokes the theme's good triumph over evil in a way that's sort of playful and indicates that it's how overdone the theme is. So it's this kind of
fraptious day, Tolu.
Speaking of sarcasm,
right? Yes, there is maybe 1 or 2 made-up words in this poem that lend to the tone of it. Yet, at the same time, like you say, right, you're obviously describing this terrible, horrible, flaming jug, right? And he's just going to with his magic vorpal sword, because obviously that's not a thing, so it's got to be something very supernatural-esque and powerful and, yeah.
I mean, really, it kind of sort of embodies Dresden in a way, because he's always like in the fight against good and evil and just so sarcastic at heart.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, he's like, I'm just going to make up a bunch of shit, but I will win the day in the end.
Right.
And
sort of suggests also that things are not so black and white. Like, there's a lot of gray area that's going to be going on.
Well, yeah, and there's a big shock in Harry's world, too, right? Gee, there's more to the plot than,
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know, right? But even in his naming style is right. We've seen him come up with, you call it a plant monster. This is going to be a chlorofiend and, things like this. The other ones come up in this,
Wait, what's a chlorofiend?
It's a plant monster. Then it gets kind of, like, real.
Right. Well, and Harry asks his father why he hadn't dreamt about him before, and Malcolm answers cryptically that he wasn't allowed until others crossed the line, but won't expand on that at all.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I wasn't allowed to
What's that mean?
contact you before. And he's like, what others? What lie? And he's like, whatever, we don't have much time. And he's like, well, that's what the dream you would say, though, was that you were real. And his dad's like, yeah, but, is that what you really feel? And then Harry just kind of goes all wibble. He starts having, like there's the feels.
So sad. This,
It is, and I like the way Marsters reads it, because Marsters does it with, this on the verge of tears, and all of a sudden he's like, Dad? He's like, I'm scared, and I don't know what to do, and everything just keeps coming, and I don't know how to stop everything coming at me, and I just didn't plan for this, and it's very moving, and very touching, and very like, oh, Harry, you need a hug, which his dad kind of does. He does come over next to him, and, but it's just like, all of a sudden Harry is just like, I am 6 years old with my daddy. Take this. I don't want to, it's hard. Help.
This whole dream thing is just so very poignant.
Very poignant, yeah. So emotional, but in a good way. You get good feels, but you also get the heart rending and the sad.
Like the line, like, yes, I'm dead, but that doesn't mean that I'm not here. It doesn't mean that I don't love you.
Right? So okay, because here in Harry's world, who knows what is dead? And especially, like you say, we're at the start of a necromantic book, right? Where dead things don't have to be dead, and right? So you're like, oh, is his dad alive and well somewhere? Was he just spirited away? Is he being kept in some, alternate parallel universe trap thing? I don't know. But he's like, yeah, no, I'm dead, but I'm still here, and I can still contact, So it's like, ugh. It's like, yes, I'm gone, but, it's just, very just, right through the heart. Jessica has no feeling. She has no input on this part.
Twitter, Dad, don't come back and visit me.
Well, now you know I will.
Don't.
I will make a point to haunt you now.
I'm going to salt my whole house.
I will.
That salt over my shoulder every 30 seconds.
That would be enough to keep me away in the real life. But I will just constantly follow you around and correct anything and everything you're saying, whether it's wrong or not.
Just offer sandwiches with mayo. That'll do it.
Butter.
Ooh.
Butter. Put butter on everything.
Both of them. Ooh, yeah.
I don't know. I'll be Dad. I can't taste butter anymore.
I got aerosol. Smell, carve, scent, butter.
Just keep popping the extra butter popcorn.
Spray Pam or something all over the... Yep. I can't believe it's not butter.
Why are you spraying Pam in the air? Don't ask.
Keep my mother away.
So Harry asks his father, why is he so afraid? And Malcolm tells him he's got more to lose since he's opened himself up to love. And Malcolm also warns him that fear is natural, but it can be a weakness, and he has to learn how to control it lest somebody sort of prey upon it.
Yeah, which is hard. And I mean, I guess this is life, but at the same time, right, it's that the very fine balance between, you are allowed to have emotions, man, woman, child, whatever context you want to take it in, If people have fears, you're allowed to be afraid, you're allowed to acknowledge that. That's part of that, what keeps you alive and aware, but at the same time, you are out there on people's radar, though, and this can be used against you. And if you have, too much of it or aren't aware of what it is or what it's doing for you, then yeah.
Well, there's part from book 1 when he's all like, wizards are surly, so I'm going to act surly, and we don't tell anyone our secrets, and we all have this image to expose. And part of that is Butcher trying to figure out who his character is, but there's a little bit of, Harry being a young guy, and who am I too? And this whole book 1 when you've got virtually no friends, right? Him and Murphy were extremely antagonistic in those first several novels, and the word friendship was a little bit loose there, right? And he didn't have Susan right off the bat. We know now he kind of did have Michael in the background, but that we didn't meet Michael for a couple of books, and that they can't always hang out and be that close to each other for a variety of reasons.
Yeah,
and
obviously, like you say, he was there, but not as integral a part, or we would have seen him prior to then, kind of a thing, right? Exactly.
And so we've seen essentially every single relationship he's got in the books. We've seen every single one of them grow and develop quite naturally and organic, and we even have the short story about when he met Murphy and stuff like that, right? We know just about how every single person came to be within Harry's life, and yeah, there's a massive difference between books 7 and 1 about who you're working for, why you're doing it. We'll get to a chapter, I don't know, we'll get to it in a couple of episodes, when Harry is complaining about, oh, my wallet's looking more anemic than usual. It's going to be really embarrassing if I can't afford to even save the world.
Which is a great line. I love that line.
But that's totally straight back to book 1, when he didn't even have enough to take the taxi all the way to Monica's house, and it's the
Yeah.
Situation hasn't changed, but his attitude around it has. Because that first book, he wasn't really trying to save the world. He was trying to save his own ass. He was like, I'm getting blamed from dark wizard shit right now. I've got to go save my own ass because I'm not the one who's doing it, right?
Yeah.
He was
Very
trying-
much had to clear his name. It just so happened that the rest of the world was there too.
Exactly,
You know?
right? Versus now, which is, okay, again, Mavra has kind of been like dangling, the carrot and the stick. Like, you want to save Murphy, you're going to do
Got
this
him over
bullshit,
barrel,
right? But it's much more now to the point where he's like, no, I'm fucking here sticking up for Chicago. I don't remember when I made that choice, but I'm doing it now, and I've got all these people behind me and relying on me and helping me.
Yeah, he wants to keep Murphy in the clear, but that would just entail him focusing directly on Hat, right? Not necessarily going out and being like, who are all these other players? Like, yeah, okay, to a degree, because you got to get there first, right? But obviously he's like, this is a bigger thing, right? Like you say, it's not just the him and Murphy Mavra situation, because he's like, I got all these guys running around doing shit in Chicago. I got to stop this whole thing from being a whole big thing, and so
Basically-
there is already where he's like, yeah, I got to try and stop Mavra, but the rest of it too, like, how can I,
Mavra's threat of don't tell anyone in order to keep Murphy safe is essentially just don't tell anyone about me being involved. Don't get the White Council on my ass, but otherwise, yeah, keep doing whatever the fuck you want that you would normally be doing. Because normally this book is with or without Mavra. If Harry had gotten wind of this some way, somehow, he'd have been like, oh yeah, obviously I'm getting involved. Obviously I'm going to stop this.
Investigate. Yeah,
The only thing we're doing right now is, okay, fine, you can't tell anyone you're protecting Murphy and you cannot send anyone after Mavra's ass, but otherwise you get to operate more or less the same as always.
Well, yeah, because I think we covered that too. It's like, well, obviously he needs to be able to ask questions and get information, or he's not going to do it, which is the whole thing she told him to go out and do, is find this, and you can't do that without, right? But yeah, and the other sub thing to that is not just, but it's also to let her have it.
Right.
That's her other big thing.
And then
about it.
eventually deliver it
she's
to
like,
Mavra.
I just don't want you to stop this. I don't want you to get, but she's like, I want to end up with this power, so you're going to get it for me. You're not going to sick the White Council on my ass doing it. But other than that, but yeah, exactly. But yeah, we have seen that he has, right? He's suddenly discovered he's got an actual brother, and he does have a stronger friendship with Murphy. And now, he's got this kind of still budding, still a little bit in his early stages with Butter. But, Butters was only introduced to Harry a couple of books ago, but obviously, right, he's been his unofficial physician kind of a thing right? So there's been that developing, right? And obviously now he's getting sucked further into the fold, and he's got his cat and his dog and his right, like, exactly, right? It's like you're not just kind of that lone.
2 episodes ago, Harry was just telling Georgia and Billy what was up, and that was so shocking to us, like, that the fact that he actually sat down and was honest and told them what the fuck was up, right?
Yes.
Because that's, choosing to be arrested by Murphy than tell her anything versus, Billy and Georgia, let me tell you everything.
Well, yeah. Let me get arrested and have my tooth chipped and my,
Well, and it's becoming pretty obvious that these new relationships that he's developed and sort of relying on have been very beneficial to him. But not only that, they also are extremely complicating to his circumstances.
That sense of community, right? Privileges and responsibilities. Even as we've seen from Billy and Georgia, too, the fact that we like this guy, we want to help him when we can, but we acknowledge that he is the top dog. We can't always help him with everything. Eventually, we're going to be a liability for him rather than helpful, and we need to know when to step back and let him...
So yeah, at this age and stage, he does have more experience than us.
Right, so it's like a lot of the friends around him do have to acknowledge that Harry is the number one for the most part. Michael obviously is a little bit different, but for the most part, everyone has to be secondary to Harry and his experience and his power and his whatever, and that obviously places for Harry much more responsibility than benefits to the, community sort of role that he's now built and placed himself and been entrapped in and all these things, good and bad. Well, because when he was the one-man stand from book 1 and a lot of book 2, too, it didn't matter so much. All the consequences landed on him and him alone. I mean, there was the good people of Chicago as a whole, but...
Yeah, well, yeah, like you say, right, aside from, Murphy and Susan and Thomas, exactly right. Oh, yeah, there's the Max, and then the few, regulars, the Kim Delaney's that he sort of knows in there, and like you say, all the alphas, right? Sure, he's real close with Billy and Georgia, but we know this is a whole team of people, like, obviously he... so yeah, there's so many more, all these books and all this kind of stuff, right? So many more ripples and things, and as opposed to, just being the one weird, lonely only guy who might pop into the bookstore. Now, Bach will take a check from him, you know what I mean? Like, there's like, yeah, you're not just random whatever dude, right? Like, there's, even if all it is a book-buying relationship, he's got enough of a relationship and trust that he'll, you know, shit like this, right? Where, yeah, Harry's all of a sudden like, oh, I'm not just like the weird guy that came up from Lake Missouri, which, you know, is a lot closer to Chicago than I ever thought it was. Makes more sense why he ended up there. Right? He doesn't have just one weird mentor on the council that sort of likes him, and that's it.
I don't know what you said, but Siri was like, hello? How can I help you?
Missouri.
Whoa, ow.
Oh, yeah. Missouri?
It may have been. I'm not sure.
That was probably it.
I was just shocked. What the hell is it doing?
It must be my day for that, because I did it in the car. I managed to hit one of the steering wheel buttons that brought up the voice command thing, which I like have done maybe one other time in like the 4 years I've owned this car or something. I don't know.
I always hit it when I'm turning the wheel, and I was like, how do I turn this thing off now that I'm turning it?
That was the thing, is that, yeah, I'm like, I was trying to hit like the back button, and it just kept being, I don't recognize that. I'm like, it's got a command, go away. What are you? I was like,
just shut up.
Obviously, when I never turn it on, I don't know how to turn it off. And then the same thing when I want to grab my phone to like toss it in my bag to come in, is I'm pretty sure I heard it bleep for like the Google Assistant then too. I'm like, no, enough with this. So it's just my day apparently for activating.
Door ajar. Door ajar.
Spoilers!
Harry essentially is like, you know, take this moment of vulnerability with his dad and be like, I'm just tired. I don't want to die. Everything is hard. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Which is, again, as we've said 1,000 times, broken record here. He doesn't really have anyone that he can go and say that to, because he is top dog and he is in charge of everything and everyone's relying on him, and he can't go and get a therapist. So it is nice to at least be able to turn to someone and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. You know, apparently when you're like, I'm just going to drive into a lake, like, your kids and stuff don't like that. They don't like it when you're the one. It's like, they say it all the time. So I'm just going to go kill myself. But apparently when you start saying it, it becomes a big deal. So I get where Harry's coming from in this sense. Obviously, you start getting messages, are you okay?
Again, we're in this weird, oddly
hypothetical conversation.
Completely. Friends of friends who have kids have told me. Right. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you're having a bad. But yeah, again, it's just that very touching of just like, Dad, I'm tired and I'm scared and I don't want to die. And you're just like, oh.
So this is the second time we've had the opportunity to see Dresden be able to first address his mother and now his father.
Yeah.
Like, that has to be so cathartic for him. This part of the discussion near the end of the episode does have some theories that you may consider spoiler if you haven't read past this book. If you haven't read ahead, jump out now.
Yeah. Encompasses the rest of the series.
So here, Miss Theories Abound, are there things on this whole who, what, where, when, why could dear old dad not contact him until now? So who is the they that crossed the line? Is it Mom? But Mom didn't really, because she just left a voicemail on a thing. She just kind of left a magic voicemail. So maybe that doesn't count as crossing any lines. So is it not his interaction, even though he seemed to have like a conversation, like a reply to question things? Or is it all these other, like, do we have anything? Do we have to wait 6 more books before we can come back to this conversation?
I have theories and I have solid answers, but as someone who has read literally every piece of content for this series, I don't think that I can say right now.
There's
spoilers.
Yes.
I know.
Nothing that can be.
I know who they is. I know what the line is. But Hansen doesn't, so I can't say.
So it will be pertinent in the future.
Yeah.
It is something to remember.
Yeah, but not even like, fine, you can't even put forth the
I don't know.
Speculation.
I don't know what I knew by this book versus anything else. I've got no clue. At this point, I would think we'd have zero idea about it at all. We know that Mortimer can talk to dead people. Right? It's the ghosts, specifically spirits, can come back, and that Malcolm is apparently not a part of that, because otherwise maybe Mortimer could be talking to Dad too, but this seems to have been some entirely different vibe.
Well, again, right, yeah, because this is like a ghost apparently, because he seems to be coming at him at a different sort of plane of existence here. As you're right, if it was just a plain old ghost or haunting, perhaps.
Right.
Once he started talking to Mort again, he could have been like, oh, hey, by the way, hey.
Believe Chauncey was already doing some mocking about like, oh, you think your mom died in childbirth? Or you think your dad died from a heart attack? Or whatever the hell Chauncey was getting at, right? And those have been times in Harry's life when he's been like, sorry, what? And I don't know if it's even happened at this point, but essentially both deaths of both his parents have been questioned by other characters towards Harry, being like, you're still believing in that crap, right?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, we had, like I say, with his mother and the entropy curse last last book, right? We got that out of, so yeah, all of a sudden now there's like, wait, what? She didn't just die in childbirth? But yeah, again, I don't think we've had as much speculation thrown on Malcolm yet for, yeah, it does, I don't know, did you?
No complete answers yet for Malcolm.
No. Did you have any theories or speculation? Or, because again, I'm in a little bit the same boat, right? Like having read, I'm like, I don't do all that.
Well, part of me is like, he's still under the influence of the Fallen, so that's sort of stuck in a bit of my mind that
this encounter with Malcolm.
But it's unfortunate. It's just so goddamn sweet. I don't want to believe that.
All right.
Well, that's a good point to bring up, Tanzan, and we'll revisit that later this book.
Just take everything that is good for Harry and just stab it with the psycho knife.
Harry said it himself to Georgia and Billy. He's like, I don't know when I'm being controlled. What if I'm being controlled right now? What if the demon is in the room with us right now and I just don't know?
Yeah.
And the whole point is that Georgia and Billy should be questioning as well. Like, did Harry tell us those things or did the demon tell us those things?
Like the quintuple
is Harry being vulnerable or is the demon trying to make Harry come across as vulnerable? Like, that's basically the never-ending question that we now have to pose ourselves. And Harry is the most unreliable of unreliable narrators since day one, book one, etc. Right. There's no...
I mean, he's the most unreliable.
Yeah, I don't even think that I sort of connected that completely of just like how his actions are... Every action now is
everything. We don't know.
Yeah.
And we don't technically know for 2 books because Harry only realized recently that he didn't do a good job of shutting away the demon. But, yeah, I mean, it was like... it was during the last book that he was occasionally... Yeah.
Well, yeah, we had virtually no mention of it.
No but we had the Hellfire, right? And come to find out, Harry has started to question and realize what that means. But he did have the Hellfire last book, too, so we know...
Yeah, sort of no conscious kind of this is a weird thing, and you're right, didn't shine any lights on it for everybody to go, ooh, what's... Yeah.
But at least now we know that the demon was there that whole time as well, in some capacity of some sort, in some way he was affected, and continues to be affected, regardless of what he thought he did to lock it away. Blah, 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 all that to say is that, yes, maybe this dream is more demon off-putting, okay? Maybe this dream is like, why do we need Harry to be thinking about Dad? Or maybe the line is this demon in your head, or maybe, like, who knows what it is.
The Jabberwocky is really the secret ritual.
And for no reason for me to think this, but for all we know to Malcolm, he died 30 seconds ago. Him coming to see Harry took him 30 years to get here, or 25, 24, whatever. Harry's turning 30 this novel.
Right, we don't know the context of time for him.
Right, so for all we know, Malcolm, he hasn't...
3 years, yeah.
Right, for all we know, Malcolm has essentially come to say hi to Harry the second he could. He woke up in the afterlife and was like, hey, boy. Harry's like, why did it take you so long to get here? And Malcolm's like, what the fuck, dude? I just got here. Like,
well, I'm not so sure about that because he does seem to have a keen awareness of what is going on in his life.
I mean, he offered him coffee, not a juice box.
And he knows he's already made new relationships with people, and that's why he's scared.
He does seem to have been overwatching for a period of time, whatever that is.
But yes, again, you don't know exactly.
It's hard to know Malcolm's side of things and what he is knowledgeable of, assuming that this is actually Malcolm.
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey. It might not have passed the same way for him in the 6 months is 6 years, and
I think him meeting Malcolm like this is very, very important for Harry to be able to let go and sort of trust that. I think it enables him to be able to actually have complete and better relationships with people because it's like it's not like he's just dead and gone and no more. Like he still exists somewhere, so he's not alone ever.
Yeah, I guess to the knowledge that...
I don't know how to say that.
Yeah. I'm trying to sort of, I get what you're saying. But yes, I see that. Everything is not as final as it...
Some people believe when they see a blue butterfly, oh, that's Mom coming to say hi because she loved blue butterflies. Or, oh, my dad always had to pick up every penny he saw on the street. So now when I see a penny in the street, I got to pick it up every single time because that's Dad saying...
That's also like cultural, spiritual thing too. I want to say it's Native American with the butterflies, that butterflies do represent like dead ancestors, or ladybugs is the other one.
Yeah. The point is that a lot of people have things like that where it's like, oh, this random thing in the world is symbolic and representative. And Harry doesn't have any of that, and he doesn't have anyone else
to share that. Oh, your dad used to love butterflies.
He doesn't have anything. So for him, to get any sort of parental childhood healing, sort of anything, they have to come back and tell him to.
Right.
Well, I still love you.
This is even more concrete because he even tells him, "No, I'm real.
Yeah.
And
This
that
is real."
Which
Yeah.
again, I feel like my dream could just say that too, but
yes. But a little bit of what I was going to say that, yes, as you were bringing that up, that exactly, it's sort of bridging a little bit of that gap that he didn't have dad there when he was growing up, when he was 9 or 12 or 15 to be like, hey, son, this is how relationship works. You're going to like someone. They're not always going to like you back. Sometimes you will, but then things will change. Relationships come and grow. And,
Gives him a better foundation of healing.
But now
sometimes your wife dies in childbirth.
right, but exactly like not the talk, but it's kind of like a little bit like, yeah, he's getting to have the talk now with it, right? He's like, yeah, he didn't have somebody there for those miles. I'm pretty sure Justin did not have a lot of touchy-feely feelings are okay, Harry, and you just feel what you feel and process, And
Sure, he did. Did it through the thrall. I'm going to tell you what to feel right now. No problem.
Right, and then McCoy, well, again, he had that very sort of tough love, hands-on healing sort of a thing. Again, just given who McCoy is and his day and age and time exactly, he probably was not
Not much emotional support.
Yeah,
he seems more like he would be more interested in diffusing his emotions. That
yeah, like I
stronger,
was going to say,
angrier
right? I
ones,
wouldn't
but-
say he would necessarily ignore or not allow or pretend they weren't there, but he certainly wouldn't be encouraging and having long drawn out talks.
We know from the text already, his version of dealing with an angry teenager was to make him work harder on the farm.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're pissed off.
Sweat it
Go mow 80,000 acres.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, right? But I'm saying, if Harry, I'm sure, if Harry came along with something and was like, hey, I'm concerned about, not that McCoy would have been like, fuck you, boy, and slapped him around the head, because you know what I mean? But yeah, he just kind of avoided that whenever possible and avoided if you just keeping him busy and just, if I don't bring it up, he won't bring it up, kind of a shit sort of avoidance more than that's
Yeah.
all I meant. Is not that McCoy would have actively discoururaged it, but he just didn't actively encourage it.
Harry's power started coming in around 12.
I think most noticeably was, like you say, around 12. I think that's when he was adopted.
Yeah, that's when he
adopted,
came
around
onto
10.
Justin's
radar.
sort of radar.
But again, there was those things where, again, in third grade.
Yes, he had a couple of instances, but I mean, though, to say is that he was adopted at 12.
The glass disappeared and suddenly snakes were talking to him.
Exactly.
Oh, wait.
Exactly.
Okay, that one I remember is Harry Potter. The one? No, listen.
Good.
The one that does actually, I have to think about, is that Harry Dresden jumping and finishing first in a race versus Harry Potter jumping and ending up on the roof of a school. Those are the two that I'm like, fuck me, I can't remember which one was which each time.
Yes, they are very similar, both school-related
Extremely,
events.
yes.
The same.
Those are the two that I always have to stop and be like, hey, which one was which for this
So
stupid...
Harry with the long legs did the long jump.
Yeah, and Harry with the long hair got on top of the school.
He doesn't really have long hair, just a shaggy hair.
Okay, but Aunt Petunia kept trying to shave him bald, and he just kept growing it back out within the night.
But he didn't have the long.
Anyways, this is to say he spent 6 years in an orphanage foster care situation too, which
Yeah.
has never been spoken on. What happened to him there? What was life like there? He's never said it
Not good, don't you
negatively.
hear? Exactly.
Being in the system is not really, known for.
Typically not, but he's never said one way or the other because Justin was just so bad that trumps. He's like, that was the worst part of my childhood, but I imagine those 6 years between Dad
yes.
and Justin couldn't have been great either.
No, and he does mention, right, he does say it's sad and lonely being an orphan, and exactly when Murphy's like, oh, what's family like? And he's like, no, I don't. You get moments where, yes, exactly, right, and that's why it was such a big deal, Justin coming and getting him, right, because especially as
And
everyone
giving
knows,
him a sister/girlfriend.
older kids that, yeah.
Let me appeal to your hormones, kid.
gets-
Let's keep you distracted.
Right?
She was powerful too. That's why it wasn't just like I just went and got a girl.
It worked for both ways.
Yeah, he's like,
You made the best out of a bad situation.
you don't just go and get an expensive stud and just you get a
Oh
really
my
good
they.
That's right. You gotta
Not now. This was Justin. He was gonna breed a farm of birds.
pretty much. I mean, come on. What did he have to lose at this point?
That was a turn I didn't expect it to take.
Yeah, no.
I don't know why, since you guys are the ones that brought it up.
You made it worse.
What I'm here for.
Okay. So, Malcolm,
You like a certain pedigree.
the chapter wraps up with Malcolm telling him that he must go because there's so much ahead of him. Pain, joy, love, death, heartache, terrible waters, despair, hope. Wish I could have been with you longer. I wish I could have helped you prepare for it. For what? I asked him. He said, "Sleep. I'll keep the fire lit until morning."
So that's a question, because Malcolm is supposed to be vanilla mortal. So what could you have possibly prepared him for? Just as any father prepares their son to, like, become a man and have to be responsible for your own decisions? Or is Malcolm being like, now, post knowing what things were up, I would have just gotten entrenched in the supernatural with you as you developed it, we would have figured it out together? Or is Malcolm being like, no, I would have held your hand through the supernatural because I'm a part of it and I know shit and what the fuck, like...
See, yeah, various takes on that. I don't necessarily think that it means that he has to, but yeah, again, it could come back to that because of who Maggie was. He knew something about, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, she's like, I need to get out of the big stakes. She went away from, you know, her vampire lovers and the big council stuff and hit out with this vanilla Joe Blow, but doesn't mean...
I gotta ask, is this, because I don't think, at least I know or have come across this, like, is if Malcolm knows that...
Yeah, no, we're speculating. We're not spoiling anything.
Okay. I just wanted to check.
Fair. No, that's fair. But that's the thing, right? Is, I mean, like, he has the amulet and stuff from his mom that obviously Malcolm must have left with him and stuff like that for him to have, you know. Maybe he knew nothing about it until Maggie, or maybe he knew bits and pieces and that's part of how they connect, you know, and then she, right, like, I think there's the possibility that either A, as you said, he could have just learned and grown with him when this shit started happening, or he could have been not entrenched in it, but known that Maggie was a real wizard person type.
That's the thing, though, is like, I don't know. A part of me is... So, in the Percy Jackson universe, Sally goes and gets pregnant with Poseidon, and she gives birth to this half-demigod baby. And as that baby grows older and older...
Poseidon?
As that baby grows older and older, he starts developing this sort of scent to monsters who are like, oh my god, there's a demigod in the area, well, let's go fuck him up. So Sally's whole
important kids, use deodorant. When you get to that age, there's a reason.
Sally decides to start hooking up with this gross, disgusting
piece of
human crap garbage guy because his stench is just so bad. Monsters can't even sniff out demigods when he's
metaphorically,
around.
right? Like, he's just such a repulsive human being that they can't tell the difference.
Oh, okay.
So, I wonder, too, if, like, Maggie was like, we're gonna put you with the most vanilla person we possibly can, and that'll hopefully diffuse things enough. Like, no one's gonna be looking for you in middle of America nothing if you're this out of the loop. If
with
you're
a stage magician, because that's just ridiculous.
That's just ridiculous. Who would ever guess that? Who knows? And we've been led to believe that Malcolm and Maggie just straight up loved each other. That was like a true love bond. It wasn't like Maggie was being manipulative and just like, who's the biggest nobody I can possibly hook up with, right?
Yeah,
like, there was no...
True love.
Like
Mallet.
Need it be said or not, getting out of the most horribly abusive situation and getting immediately knocked up by the next guy is not usually the step one plan. But they were so true in love that, even though that probably wasn't her immediate plan, things just happened to be that way.
Well,
so,
it wasn't like immediate, was it?
More or less. We know that Thomas and Harry are 6 years apart, and she left Thomas when he was 5. So you pretty much immediately meet Malcolm and you're pregnant for 9 months.
What was it? Okay, that's what I was trying to remember. I was like, was he 3 or was he 5 when she... Okay, he was 5. Thomas was 5 when she left. I guess. I mean, we don't know, again... She could have sort of met Malcolm somewhat before that, and again, that was just the eventual runaway moment.
I mean, I take those 5 years she was with the race to be that she was only with the race. There wasn't like a, pass out of the compound to go meet people, I imagine you're supposed to be this sort of drugged up whatever, and Maggie happened to be able to fight through it, but probably not enough that she was able to just come and go as she pleased.
See, I don't necessarily look at... I understand what you're saying, but I think that, because he's got these different... So spaced out, right? All the actual women that mothered children for him, that those works... Again, the loopy, drugged out Big Macs, again... pedigree, right? They're not going to make him great kids and strong, So I would think he would pick. So yes, she was trapped and in that, but I look at it.
What, you thought like the consorts had like a little bit more power and freedom to just go around?
Yeah.
I don't think that he...
I would see potentially.
I took it to be like, okay, he's not the kind to want to be having millions of kids, because he could be. Obviously, it would not be difficult. A regular mortal man could have hundreds and hundreds of kids in his lifetime, right? A vampire, obviously not a problem, especially a vampire who can make anyone fall for them immediately.
Yes.
But it was his preference not to be having children. He had like one a century or one every couple centuries, right? But I still don't think that
Until you got to like Thomas and then he had like more than like 10 years. But he went from centuries to decades. I'm not as young as I used to be.
I feel like the Anari one though was like just to make sure like everything still worked after Maggie's like she cursed him and he's like, all right, I just gotta go check real quick
After he got snipped.
because that Anari is the only one that doesn't fit the pattern, but she does come right after
That's a really
Maggie's
good
curse.
point.
So I feel like he was just like, all right, real quick, I just gotta go see. And then it did work, and he was like, all right, everything's fine. And then the years and years and years.
Off the rest.
And then the years and years went on. He's like, things are not fine, actually. I feel that choosing the women, though, to be the mother of his children was not the same as choosing a wife or choosing queen or whatever. I feel like for him, it was still just like, doesn't matter. As long as we get a baby out of this, it doesn't matter. Maybe, for whatever reason, they had more spunk or they had... Okay, that's a legitimate word.
For once, it wasn't me.
Those are children.
It wasn't
Like,
me.
do you know why I don't like jokes like that? It's because my mom never liked jokes like that. I've got no potty humor in my head because she put a stop to it. And now as an adult, she's got the worst mind out of all of us. And I'm like, how did you raise me?
It's not the worst. I mean, honestly, yes, it's definitely more like potty humor than
It was a little
innuendo.
contextual, I suppose.
But I'm sorry, it's
Pardon that pun.
just also relates to some of the other reading material I've been exposed to lately where
You need to read classier things.
hey man, they were talking about German poetry and it's classy as fuck, okay?
Just read actual German poetry.
Ich Einstein Berliner.
What is that? What was that actually, Mr. Like, I am a hot dog or something?
No,
It's JFK said something like tried to say I'm one with the Germans. And
I am a
I'm a
I am a bratwurst.
I'm a hot dog.
I am a Berliner.
Okay. Ignoring everything that they're talking about. This podcast is about me and me alone and now.
I'm just amused now. Every time I think about it, I'm going to think of BJ.
I don't even know what I was saying.
I'm a hot dog.
For whatever reason,
were
the
talking-
way that he
we were-
chose wives or mothers of his children or consorts or whatever the fuck kind of word the white court wants to goddamn use. That I feel that part of the appeal would have been to break them and turn them into just one more mindless servant in the end anyways, and that they were not places of honor. I don't have Laura or Thomas or any of them being like, well, my mother was queen up until Thomas showed up. Or Thomas's
Their
mom showed
property.
up. Or yeah.
For sure, no, but I can see, I mean, definitely just based on what he is. I mean, like, Sally's just vile, repulsive human being of a person. Yeah, but that's more the challenge, right? What's harder to break? The twig or the branch kind of thing. Where's the challenge? So he for sure would have picked, right?
But maybe
you're
he was
strong,
special.
You're capable, you're this, you're going to bear my child, and then if I can break you, woo,
Yes, exactly. But Maggie was special. The fact that he couldn't break Maggie, the fact that she faked it, or that she fell into a trance for a while and then got out of it. Not every single one who preceded her was able to do that.
Obviously.
And, implied
and
none
they
of them
weren't
were.
necessarily all wizards either, right?
No.
But they still could have been.
They still could have been, sure, whatever. Whatever. Laura's mother is maybe
Good
implied to
genes.
be this, pirate queen or whatever. Based off of her description, that's what I'm going to give her, right? Maybe she was fucking Blackbeard on the high seas, but eventually she falls in with a vampire, and then that's the end of her. And nobody knows what happened to Amelia Earhart. She just disappeared one day, but she was super cool at the time, or I don't know, right?
Yeah.
We don't know. But Maggie is special. Maggie got out of it. She managed to run away. That, to me, is just symbolic of the fucking, what was happening to them otherwise before that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, she's definitely more probably special in that sense. Yes, she got away when others didn't. I just meant that, I just didn't necessarily see them as all being so random. And I mean, this is the other thing, too, that...
Okay, no, not random women. Maybe, it was more important to go and steal away Queen Elizabeth's sister, whatever the fuck.
Yes,
random,
yes.
important women in history,
Whatever.
named or not named, if it's strong. But that, again, he wasn't keeping them around to continue to be strong.
No, and I agree with that, too, that, once he'd gotten, a child out of them or whatever, then, fair game or whatever, right? Then you wouldn't necessarily have, depending on how long that took, how long he wanted to keep them around as a quote-unquote plaything or whatever, Sorry, I will say, too, part of it is because we find out later on, like McCoy says, they went for dinner and stuff like that. So that's part of where I'm like, she wasn't just chained in the dungeon, kind of
No,
thing
but,
that
going
they had.
with somebody. is different than going off on your own.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying it's not completely I mean, not that it was that strong a theory that I had.
She went for dinner with McCoy?
She had McCoy over for that. Was part of it because they were arguing like family at the race, and that's where they put it together.
Oh,
right.
No, I don't remember that at all.
Okay.
Me neither.
That's okay. Yeah. And hopefully you won't by the time.
That's okay. I'll forget it by,
So I meant
2 weeks from now after I've edited
Yeah,
it.
exactly right. Is that she wasn't completely hoarded away. I mean, she had some autonomy still to exist as a person while she was.
Regardless of whether or not Maggie was allowed to have friends or contacts or whatever come over anyways, I still feel that there was not the same level of freedom that you would just normally otherwise have if you were not enshrined with fucking vampire royals.
Assault type thing. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it wasn't that very intuitive.
It does make a very tight timeline.
Yes.
You're right.
It is, well, yeah, we've gone off topic like 8 fucking points away, but all this to say we don't know how Malcolm is or isn't aware of the supernatural.
Yes.
But that it is a very strange sentence for him to say. Is like, I wish I could have helped you prepare for it. Doesn't really seem like your role. Seems like it would have been more Maggie's role.
Yeah, so again, is it just the very much... I couldn't have done anything...
2020.
Well, or just the
Now
whole,
that I'm dead, I know all of it, yeah.
Well,
yeah, like, who knows if I could have done something, but I wish I'd been there with you,
Part of the strange thing about Maggie and Harry is that, generally speaking, magicalness is not hereditary. It skips multiple generations. Ancient Mai, she grows up with her entirely mortal family. They know Grandma's been around for like 400 years.
Oh, I think you're screwing that up again.
Am I?
Yeah, it's Martha Liberty.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
She mentions.
Martha Liberty. Okay, I thought you were telling me I was screwing up the genetics, not the person. But we know that, typically speaking, wizards are not pairing up with other wizards and having wizard children like in the Harry Potter universe. That in this universe, it's much more rare for a wizard to have a wizard child. That the magic that is finding them is in some way, somehow, not quite as hereditary as typical.
I disagree to a point. I think it depends on the size of, because we do know of some...
So my point is that essentially all these dark wardens that Harry's against the council constantly executing is because they can't keep track of them because their parents are completely out of the loop mortals. And then their kid is magical, and then they grow up and they start doing bad shit and they get executed right away. And Harry's like, that's not fair. They didn't even get told about the universe. If this was like in the Harry Potter universe, when it was like wizard parents having wizard kids, there wouldn't be like, where the fuck did this guy come from? I'd be like, no, this guy was raised in a magical community their whole life. They know the rules. They know the laws. They're not a surprise to the council for existing. We knew they existed when they were born. Whereas in this universe, they're constantly like, who the fuck knows who has magic? We don't know until they start acting up.
I guess I feel it's more like a half and half. I feel like there's plenty of wizard families that Harry is not such an exception, that there are a few where mother, son, daughter, or whatever.
Give me one example, besides the obvious.
Okay, well...
That's it, though. That's one bloodline. Other than the one bloodline. Give me one example.
Yeah, but Arthur doesn't say that, like, none of her other family is. She just...
There's not one single... no one is related to anyone else in this entire series other than Dresden's. But they're not even technically Dresden's, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Do you know who Maggie's mother or Maggie's parents are?
I know one of them, but that's from memory, not from coming across it.
Yeah. I know, but you know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's still one bloodline. That's the only family we know so far. And for me, I pin that on them being just so fucking powerful that they get. Their bloodline is like, we're enshrined in the magic, we're doing this, right? But maybe fucking Arthur Merlin we've got right now just didn't have kids. Maybe he'd be powerful enough to do it, but he just didn't have kids, so he doesn't have any. We don't know, it hasn't come up, but for all the books, for it to never be mentioned, like, oh yeah, this warden over here is Arthur Merlin's son. We've got no family ties throughout this entire novel at all. No one's related to anyone whatsoever outside of the Dresden bloodline.
Maybe. You're right. No, I don't have a lot of concrete to back it up. You're right. I just always assumed it was a little bit like either way, that some of them, yes, do have other magical factors in their family, and some of them are, again, like depending on your type and skill, right? Like the Barbara / Lydia's or whatever, right? Had a little bit of this kind of, doesn't mean that maybe her whole, right? Somebody somewhere maybe, or it's been diluted or whatever. Like, yeah, there are the, kind of like, the random redhead in a family or something like that, it's like that
fucking
gene,
loser.
That gene is just exists, and then all of a sudden, oop, pop, there's what, doesn't mean there wasn't somewhere originally way back, but so you have the Weasleys where you have entire...
Two recessives makes a redhead.
Right, so you have,
just takes a while to show up.
Entire family of redheads, or you have exactly the one where you get the milkman joke, like where did this one come from? that, so I always viewed it something where it's more as that as I assumed that there were other larger, and whether it's, every generation or hops around, like twins or something like that common enough to not be like oh my God, but yeah, not everybody is having sets of twins or anything like that, but yeah, they run in your family, so it's not that uncommon, I always sort of assumed, and you're right, I don't necessarily have proof of that, that was just the way I took it, that yeah, so you're right, there's a good question.
I Googled it, and apparently the closest we've come to any information is that it basically works like the TARDIS for Rory and Amy. You do magic while you're pregnant, you got a magic baby.
There you go.
Not
that I've seen any proof or hint of that in the Dresden
impregnated
version.
while you're traveling in the TARDIS, you give birth to a Time Lord.
Interesting. There's definitely been no proof of that either, but I suppose there's no not proof of that either. So.
Well, there's proof of the TARDIS one.
No, I meant in
okay. Yes.
Sorry, the TARDIS. Yes,
okay.
I meant in the,
yes.
I meant in the Dresden verse. There's nothing to either support or condemn or deny that theory. So it might as well. Yes, but anyways, yes, you're right. That was I assume probably that yes, based on other people that are around. I just assumed that they were other ones, but. Anyways, it's just, very funny, very sad. He's like,
okay.
There's so much still ahead of you.
Yes.
So much.
There is one other thing. Charity to Molly, I guess, is the only other example we actually have.
See, thank you. I knew there was. Yeah, no, that's it. Just a very, very sad sort of ending to it.
Well, yeah.
So much.
I don't know.
Yeah, troubled waters.
The way
Bad shit's going to happen.
Maggie and Malcolm both kind of send off Harry kind of sucks. He's like, well, can I at least hang out with you, Mom or Dad? And they're like, no, wake up, bye. He's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. They're like, no. And at least, Maggie was a little bit like, just tell your brother I love him. And Malcolm's like, good luck, champ. Shit sucks out there. Glad I'm dead already and it's not my problem.
Except he's not. Apparently he's regretful that he's dead already and it's not his fault. But, yeah, well, it was really good and really poignant, really sweet up until Jessica finished it.
That's what I'm here for.
He does let him sleep quietly for the no more going to work naked dreams and no tentacles or anything.
Well, that's extra funny because he's like, well, the night is young, but I'm going to knock you out for all of it. He didn't even tell his son happy birthday. It was rude.
It's not quite there yet. It's early.
2 nights away.
Leaving early birthdays, I guess. I don't know. This was his birthday present. Was his dad actually came to visit him, okay? Like, what? Right? See what I do?
Absentee father.
You millennials, it's never enough. You always want something more. I'm back from the dead to visit you, and it's no. But what did you really get me?
I could really use some money, Dad. Please.
My bed just drowned in a flood.
Ew. Oh, me. I thought you were in Thomas. Oh, God. I didn't know we were talking about me.
Wow. There was a water main break in the city, and in the basement, it literally flooded, and Jessica's bed is presumably toast now.
My roommate texted me not like 20 minutes ago in real time right now that the water's still coming in.
Okay.
24 hours now.
So, thankfully, most of the rest of her stuff was moved, and it's just the bed that you lost?
The bed is the only thing I care about.
Okay, nothing else of, right? All her books were gone already, people. It's okay. So, maybe some clothes and her book. Yeah. But that is what I was referring to. All right. I tried to have a proper ending for this, but it's not going to happen.
I'll find something.
Yeah. Okay, bye. I love you, lady. Bye-bye.
This concludes our episode 13.10. I am a hot dog. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.